In this segment, I'll be talking about how to import data using D3. I'll talk about two main techniques about how to import data inline or using a file, and I encourage you to click onto this link and look into other ways of importing data. First thing first, we need to import or include the library D3. To do this, we will be using the require keyword or function, and in double quotations, we will be including the library D3. First, let's talk about hard coding the data. Let's create an array primes and let's hard code the prime numbers. To refer to a slot in the array, we can write prime 0 to get the data from the 0th slot of this array. And if we change this to 3, we will get 7 because 7 is at the 3rd slot of this array. Next, we will hardcode the data, but this time we will copy paste the data from a file. Let's open up the car dataset. Let's copy it, come back to observable. I'll create a cars variable, open a couple of backtests, paste it. It's going to take a little while because the data is huge. I'm going to run it, and if you scroll all the way to the top, you will see that the data has been loaded as a text. Let's unpin the code that has been used to import this text, and let's hide this code just to remove clutter from the notebook. Let's now reformat this text so that we can use it later on in our code. To do this, let's open up another cell below it. Let's declare a variable or an object, and using D3, we will parse this dataset using tsv parse, and as an input, we will give it the cars object. If we open up this array, we will be able to see that all the data now is nicely formatted. So, if we add another line, another cell here, and if we want to look into this data set, let's say for the 0th index, we will get the first line of this array. If we want to know the vehicle name of it, we can type in a dot and select vehicle name and run this cell again. If we change 0 to 11 and run it again, we will get the vehicle name of the 11th object, which is Audi, in the list. Similarly, if you want to know if the 11th object is a sports car or not, type in the dot again and select the sports car. Rerunning it will let you know that it's not a sports car. Let's take a look into the other dimensions of this dataset. Let's say we want to add how many miles per gallon does a car go in the city, and add it to the miles per gallon it goes in the highway. Let's open up another cell. Let's fetch the first data, that is the 0th data. We want city per gallon, and we want to add it to the 0th data's highway per gallon. That's 1824. So what happened there? These quotations show you that this data is all in string format. So when I'm adding 18 plus 24, it's actually concatenating 18 and 24, resulting in a single string 1824. But we don't want that. We want to do an arithmetic operation on this. In other words, when we're loading the data, we want the numeric data to be in number format and the string data, for example, the name of the car, in string format. To do this, we will have to do a simple fix when we loaded the data or when we parsed the data. Here, instead of just passing cars to the tsv parse function, we will add one more argument or parameter, which would be D3 autotype. This has resulted in the correct calculation of this line of code, where 18 plus 24 is equal to 42. Not just this, if you go back and look into the data, this name, for example, is in string format, which are in double quotations, but the numbers no longer have double quotations. This means that D3's autotype function was able to correctly determine the type of each data. Just a quick recap, we copy-pasted the data from an Excel file which was in CSV format. But what happens if we copy-paste the data directly from the CSV, as in from the Notepad file? If you open the CSV file in Notepad, you'll be able to see that all the columns are separated by a comma. So let's copy-paste the whole data and let's bring it back to observable. Let's add one more cell and let's call this cars2. Again, in backtext, we will paste the entire data set, run the data, scroll up to the top, unpin the code used to import this data, and hide the data. Notice the difference between these two. This one has comma separated between each name or each column, whereas previously it was separated by tab spaces. Similarly, previously we used tsv parse to parse this dataset, but this time instead of using tsv, we are gonna use csv parse. Let's just quickly copy paste this line, bring it down here, change this to csv, change this to csv, and instead of cars, now we have this in cars2, so we will name this as cars2. Run the code, check the data, it looks exactly like the one we had before. The other way of importing a dataset, instead of copy pasting directly from the file, we can also upload the file in observable and use it directly in the code. To do this, scroll all the way to the top, click on the three dots, click on File Attachments, drag and drop the file here, or click this button to browse in your computer. Once you have located the file, just open it, it will upload and will give you a confirmation. Now that we have successfully uploaded the file, let's open this in the code. This time it's a three-step process. First, you need to open the file using the file attachment function. Next, you need to grab the text from this file by calling into the text function on this file object. And then once the text is loaded, it will be the same as the one we just did right now. So instead of, I think, naming this text, we should call this cars3. And now, just like before, we will be importing this using this D3's CSV parse command. And don't forget the D3 autotype. Look into the data, it's exactly like before.